Great to have with us as our guest at halftime, Kouri Allen, who is a man of many talents, one of which is the tennis team there at Coastal Alabama South. But I see that you're very much knowledgeable on American history too. Kouri, how you doing?
Man, doing great. Thanks for having me on the show.
It is a delight to have you aboard. I always like to get a little information on you, especially in our first conversation. So, where is Kouri from, and how did you wind up at Coastal Alabama South coaching tennis?
Yeah. So I'm from Jackson, Alabama, a little town in Clark County, about 90 miles north of here. So from the regional area, I would say. I came to Faulkner State way back in 2006. So I came here on a tennis scholarship, played for Coach Richie Delaney, who still is our volleyball coach. Spent 2 years here, graduated, went to Montevallo, finished my undergrad, was lucky enough to come back to South Alabama and do a master's. And then from there, started working at Alabama Southern, which is now part of the Coastal Alabama family. So got back home, stayed there for about 3 years, and then had the opportunity to come back to Faulkner State as a full-time faculty member in the history department. And then luckily in 2021, the administration came to me. They were looking to do some different things with the tennis program because of the scheduling conflict between volleyball and tennis. And I was fortunate enough to get an opportunity to step into a head coaching role here at Coastal.
All right, so let's go back to high school. Were you a multi-sport guy? And if you were, how did you narrow it down to tennis?
So I was not. I played a lot of baseball growing up. And of course, like many other athletes in small towns, you dabble in football, dabble in basketball. But baseball was my primary sport. And my dad was a tennis player. He picked it up out of nowhere. And I have four brothers, and he begged us to play, and we did everything except that. He would take us to the courts on Sundays. He would play with his men's group. He would kind of lead us to play for about 15, 30 minutes. We'll do it just to appease him, and then we would stop. And then around 14, I decided that I just wanted to take a short break from baseball. And I said, well, I've always been around a tennis court. My brothers played, my dad played, and picked the racket up and never put it back down.
All right, so you come to Coastal Alabama South, and was it at the time Faulkner, or had it already shifted to South?
It was still Faulkner State at that time. Came here and played on the team, was the captain for 2 years. We had a pretty good run, finished top 25 in the nation in my sophomore year, and then looked at some other academic opportunities, and then kind of came back as well.
Did you go to a four-year school and play? I know you went to a four-year school, but did you play tennis at that level?
No, I didn't. At that time, I was really trying to focus on academics. Got a full academic ride to University of Montevallo. Thought I was going to law school, and then some other things changed and switched directions and pivoted into a history role. And the goal was always to get back to home, my alma mater, a place that gave me a start, a place that gave so many people who work here a good launching pad into their careers.
All right, so you get back here academically as a history teacher. When did you know, or was there always kind of that in the blood tennis kind of thing where you were looking for opportunities to maybe get back into it?
There was. When I started in 2015, there was a little hope and a little push. Dr. Richard Delaney, she was trying to work me in a little bit to maybe be her assistant coach. It didn't quite work out at that time because I was pursuing my doctorate degree. And so I was teaching, family, doing a lot of other things. And then once I finally finished the degree, it took about 4 years to get that done. The door opened up, the degree was out of the way. And so the coaching opportunity presented itself.
And if you just absolutely had to give up one or the other, teaching history or coaching tennis, which would go?
Oh, that's a tough one. I have to tell my students a lot of times because when I come into the classroom, I'm casually dressed because I coach and practice, then I go teach, and I have to let them know I'm a real academic historian. Like I do academic research, so it's something that I'm really, really passionate about. But I'm really enjoying the tennis. It's giving me an opportunity to enjoy the sport, to impact young people in a different way. Don't get me wrong, we impact them in the classroom when we see them on a daily basis. But when you bring in student athletes, they become a part of you. you become a mentor to them. A lot of my players are from all around the globe, so you become like a guardian parent figure to them. So it's a different type of relationship. So I would take the coaching role.
All right, where the coaching role is concerned, you coach both men and women. How different are the genders from a coaching perspective?
Very different. So when I first started, I never coached a women's sport. And so I went to a lot of my mentors and got a few different answers. Like, so is there a difference? They were like, yes, but you need to coach them the same. So my first couple years, I tried it. I tried to coach the men as hard as I coached the women and vice versa. And then I realized that it's a different type of response to the coaching. And so what I've learned is in a lot of cases, you can coach the guys a little bit harder. You can be more direct. But with the ladies, at first they got to feel supported. They got to feel like their needs are met, and then they respond. So it's a lot more relationship building with the young ladies. But I've also learned that they have a different level of maturity. They work much harder consistently over time. And then oftentimes we see the biggest growth and development in the women's game.
Is one gender harder to coach than the other, or is it just different?
I would say it's different. The guys, I will say they are more they're a little hard at it. So we may work on a concept for 3 days, and then when we get into the match, sometimes you wonder what do we spend 3 days working on these concepts for? So they're a little bit reluctant to make those changes in matches. Whereas ladies will look directly at you for the game plan, and they will try it. And if it doesn't work, they'll look at you, well, coach, it didn't work. And it's easier for me to say, hey, I can take this loss instead of you not fulfilling what I asked you to do. And we taking a loss anyway.
You know, it would seem that tennis and history are two very different. But to me, there could be some similarities from the perspective that in history, I guess you're looking at nuances, what influenced decisions, that kind of thing. Couldn't you apply that to the coaching level too?
Yeah. It's all about critical thinking, being able to analyze situations. We look at data, we look at sources in history. And the coolest thing in tennis is a lot of your top players now, they're bringing in coaches to look at the analytics, look at the data. So, making decisions based on what the evidence shows. So we do that in history, and we do that in tennis too, as we build out practice plans, game plans, and plans of development.
You've been very successful, Coach of the Year in the ACCC, ITA Coach of the Year as well. When you head into a season, what are the goals?
The goal this year, first, we want to win our first conference championship. For the last 3 years, we've been runner-up. So the first goal is to bring home our first ACCC championship or our Region 22 championship. The larger goal this year for both teams is to win a national title. And so we're very fortunate. We brought in a really good class on the women's side. For our men's team, We've been very fortunate where we're bringing back 6 guys who played in our lineup, and you just don't happen to see that a lot in JUCO tennis because a lot of guys have played 1 year and then they're moving on to the 4 years. So we brought back 6 guys who are ready to work. They understand the culture. They've taken over the culture, and we've also added 3 more freshmen with them. So we're looking very poised to make a good run at the conference title and then the national title this year.
For tennis, is it similar to other sports, or at least basketball and football, where a lot of your free or away from the court time is spent recruiting or looking for that next talent?
Yeah. And so it's a part of the JUCO world. I have friends who coach at the 4-year level where they don't have to go out there and replace an entire roster. But a lot of times our roster usually consists anywhere from 8 to 10 players. And so I will go out there and have to look to replace 8 to 10 players. So the recruiting takes a good bit of time. A lot of my recruiting now is internationally, so it's a little bit different. It's evaluating players on the video they send. It's about evaluating the results, and then really, really working through the process of meeting with their parents, meeting with their coaches, and trying to figure out if their goals align with what we do here at Coastal.
Typically, how large is a roster on the tennis team?
Yeah, so typically we get 9 scholarships, and so I like to stay anywhere from 8 to 10 players. Try to keep the numbers even, and so when we compete, we have 6 lines of singles and then 3 lines of doubles. And so some of those guys play singles and doubles. Some just play doubles. Some just play singles. But it just depends on what the level of talent is.
Is tennis a team sport, or is it 8 to 10 different individuals?
Ooh, that is the question of that everyone in college tennis is kind of trying to figure out right now. So we compete as a team. The overall score is based on the number of courts won. But you compete also as an individual. Like, you have to win your singles match in order for the team to get a point. And so one of the different things that we've had to do here is we really try to recruit guys who have a team sport background. I like players who play soccer. I like players who play basketball. For my international guys, I like my guys who play rugby, right? Because they're used to being a part of a unit. Unfortunately, tennis is one of those individualistic sports. Sometimes you get egos in the mix. You get guys who aren't used to collaborating for the overall goal. But when you get guys who've had that team background, that baseball background, they tend to buy in quicker to what we're trying to accomplish.
We've already talked about the goals for this year where your teams are concerned. What about the things that are not acceptable? What to you this season is not acceptable as part of the tennis program there at Coastal South?
I think I'm a big effort guy. About dedication and buying into what we're doing. The guys and young ladies that we have here now, they're committed to working hard. I always tell them that the fun, the pleasure is in the work. And so the coaching staff, we try to model that for them. We work 24/7 on their behalf. We want them to be committed to working 24/7 for themselves, but also working 24/7 for the person or the brother or the sister that's also here trying to meet their goals. So if we're committed to the work, we'll reach our goals and more.
In closing, totally unrelated to tennis, you're an American history teacher. Favorite figure in American history? Who is it?
I would probably say my favorite figure is a person that's less known. There's an attorney from Montgomery named Fred Gray. He was one of the most active people in the civil rights movement. He was the lawyer behind many of the civil rights lawsuits that were put in place to create equality for many Americans. Some say he was King's attorney. Mr. Fred Gray, still living now. A few years ago, had an opportunity to meet him. Took my daughter to see him in Montgomery. So Fred Gray would be one of my favorite figures in American history.
All right. Well, great conversation. Kouri Allen, tennis coach at Coastal South, a doctor as well in American history. Thank you so much for being our guest at halftime.
Thank you for having me.